All right, welcome to today's class on Docusign 201. My name is Leah with Scott Leroy Marketing. In today's class, I'm going to take you through more of the advanced tips and tricks in Docusign. So my goal is to give you, some tools to make your Docusign experience a little more efficient, help you add on some knowledge to Docusign. So this will build on the Docusign 101 class, which I taught last week. If you are new to Docusign, it would be best if you started with the Docusign 101 class. Okay, I will not be going over the basics quite as slow in today's class. Today will be more advanced. So if you do need to watch the Docusign 101 class, I will put the link in the chat so you can go ahead and watch that. I have it recorded. It's literally from 7 days ago. Oops. Put it out to everyone, sorry. So this is Docusign 101 in the class. So if you're new to Docusign, I might recommend watching the Docusign 101 class first, and then I will be posting this class recorded as well later today. All right, so first things first, let's go ahead and log into Command. So we just need to do a small amount of housekeeping in Command to make sure that Docusign is linked up properly. So if you could follow me to log into Agent. So it's agent.kw.com to log into Command. Again, that's agent.kw.com to log into Command. I remember that like it's the agent login for kw.com. So agent.kw.com. If you have any trouble logging in, you can click Forgot Password there. Feel free to also shoot us an email. I'm going to put our email in the chat. It's support@scottleroymarketing.com. Anytime you guys need us, feel free to shoot us an email. That's definitely the quickest way to get a hold of us. Our goal is to answer emails between 5 and 10 minutes during normal business hours. Now, be gentle on that turnaround time, especially with the summer craziness coming. We're getting an influx of emails, but just know we have a whole team working to email you back as quick as possible, either letting you know, hey, that's something that we can do for you, or here are quick steps on how to get that done. So if you guys ever have questions, feel free to start by emailing us, support@scottleroymarketing.com. And chances are we can do it for you, or at least set you on the right path. All right, and we will need to go ahead and make sure Docusign is linked to Command. And if you don't have a Command account quite yet, you can just watch along if you would like to. But again, I would recommend the Docusign 101 class first. All right, so we can go ahead and click on our name on the top right and click on Settings from that drop-down to ensure that we have Docusign linked to Command. So two systems will work together. So again, go ahead and click on your name on the top right of Command and Settings from that drop-down. So we can double check that Docusign is showing on this list as connected. Now, if you're not seeing Docusign near the top, you may have to scroll down. Okay, your connected apps will show at the top of your screen. So mine will probably be in a different order than yours, and that's okay. All right, but you do want it to have the connected status. If it does not, you can click to connect the account right to the right of it. Okay, please keep in mind that if you had a previous Docusign account like outside of the KW system, that unfortunately won't be compatible with Command. However, we're more than happy to create a KW Docusign account for you under your KW email. So if you do not already have this linked up or are having any trouble connecting your account or creating your account, shoot us an email, support@scottleroymarketing.com. I would be more than happy, or we would be more than happy to take a look at your Command and Docusign and figure out the best route to get that fixed. So yeah, if you've had Docusign for years, like you've been using it outside of the KW system, chances are it's not compatible with Command because Command requires a KW specific Docusign Rooms account. We can definitely check on your account specifically. Shoot us an email with your Command and Docusign login and password, and we can see if we can find a workaround to get that linked up for you. Or we can go ahead and set up a new KW Docusign account under your KW email. So shoot us an email. We're happy to troubleshoot that for you. I can even take a look at your account after class. All right. So before we go further in Docusign 201, I just want to make sure you guys all have the notes. I do have some notes for today's class that I'll be referring to. So I'm going to share that in the chat. And if you're watching this class recorded, I will be putting these notes in the description of the YouTube video. So notes for today's class, if you came to the Docusign 101 class last week, it will be the same notes, but I'll just be referring to those differently in today's class. Yeah, I'm just gonna pull this over so you can see what I sent you guys. So what I did here is I tried to collect all the written notes and all of our quick tip videos on Docusign specifically, and collect those for you. So scrolling down, you'll see the 10-minute versions of the different Docusign tips, and I highlighted the copy or the tip videos that are not necessarily covered in Docusign 101 or 201. So you can watch that 10-minute tip video after class if you would like to. And also my favorite link on here is the top one for the Docusign steps, especially if you are newer to Command and Docusign or using the two systems together. The Docusign steps right here will show you steps 1 through 10. So that top link, I just want to pull it open to show you guys real quick. This is what I go over completely in the Docusign 101 class, steps 1 through 10 on how to start and manage your transaction in Command with Docusign. So that's some great written notes for you guys with links to little videos if you'd like to print that out or use that. That will walk you through how to start and manage your transaction with Command and Docusign. All right, so I'll be referring back to these notes as we go through class so you guys know, where it's pertinent and so forth. I'm just gonna pull that on the other side of my screen for now, and we can get rolling on all these fun Docusign tips. All right. So the first thing that I want to do is actually take you through answering the question, how do I get my forms in Docusign? That is, of course, a big question that we get all day long is how do I get access to my forms in Docusign? So to do that, please keep in mind that your forms are not in Command. You will be accessing your forms in Docusign. Excuse me. So to overview those notes that I just sent out, right, for the steps on how to start a transaction in Command with Docusign, I won't be going through that since I do that heavily in the Docusign 101 class, just for timing's sake. But please keep in mind that on those notes, step 1, right, is we need to add a contact to our database. So your contact does need to be in your database first. And once you've added your contact to your database, and feel free to go ahead and do that, or if you have a contact that you have an opportunity for, you can go ahead and click on that contact to open it up. The first step is always to create the contact in your database first. And then once you create that contact, you can click on the contact to open it. And on the right-hand side, we have the option to create opportunities for that client. Okay, and if the word opportunities is newer to you, first of all, you're not alone. I wondered the same thing. What is that when I first started to learn Command? Okay, and really an opportunity is just as corny as it sounds. So you'll create an opportunity per transaction that you have. So anytime you have an opportunity for a closing, you will go ahead and come in here and click Create Opportunity to create the opportunity right away. And again, this is really heavily covered in the Docusign 101 class. So if you are new to creating opportunities, please feel free to check that out as well. All right, so now that I have the opportunity created, what I really want to show you guys will be, of course, sticking in Docusign for the most part of this class. But feel free, I'm going to walk you guys through how you access Docusign now. Of course, that is one of the Docusign 101 things, but just as a reminder, once you create the opportunity, we'll go ahead and click on the opportunity name to open that up. All right, so I simply click on the opportunity name to open it. And as you guys probably know, there's a couple different ways to access your opportunities, right? The way I just showed you was from the contact record directly. You can access your opportunities, or you can click on the handshake icon on the left-hand side command menu to access all of your opportunities right away. So however you feel most comfortable accessing your opportunity, go ahead and do that and click on the opportunity name to open it. Now, anytime we're starting a transaction in Docusign, we always have to do that from the opportunity in Command. So this is a really important part. If you're taking notes in today's class, I'll mention noteworthy moments. This is one of them. Okay, so anytime that you start a transaction, you always have to start that in Command with these steps that we just went over, right? Step 1, We added the contact to our database. Step 2, we created the opportunity. And just a reminder, this is word for word on the notes that I sent out, just a heads up, so you can see that as well. All right, and then the final step to accessing Docusign, to creating your Docusign room, is doing that from the Documents tab of your opportunity. So in the Documents tab of the opportunity, if you have not yet started the transaction, you'll only see one button right here that says Start a Transaction. It is very important that you click that Start a Transaction, which will create your Docusign room automatically and link it to your opportunity. So again, it's really important that you do not create your Docusign rooms from Docusign directly. It's really important that you always start your transaction in Command by creating the opportunity and then clicking Start a Transaction from the opportunity to create the Docusign room right away. Okay, I know that might sound a little confusing. It's a really important concept for you guys to understand. But moving forward, you can, after you create the Docusign room initially, you can always go to realestate.docusign.com directly to access your rooms. And I'll put that in the chat as well, just so you guys have it. We're about to go there directly from Docusign, or from Command rather. So again, if you are not where I am, just make sure you open your opportunity in Command by clicking on the name of it. We're selecting the Documents tab. If this is a new transaction, it will say Start a Transaction, or if you already have this room created, you'll see Go to Transaction. So whichever it says, go ahead and click on that. And that should open Docusign for you right away. All right, and you will want to go ahead and put in your Docusign login and password. Docusign is one of those login and passwords that you will need to remember. You'll need to go ahead and put in your Docusign login and password anytime that you go to Docusign for the first time in the day. For security reasons, after that, it will automatically log you in for the first time each day. You'll have to put it in. So put that in your bank of passwords, one of the 9 million passwords you have to remember. You will need to know your Docusign login. All right, so now that I am in my Docusign account, let's talk about the first most pressing question, which is always, how do I access my forms? How do I get them in my account? Right, so to do that, so I'm in the Documents tab of my Docusign room. So if I lost anyone for a little there, feel free to go directly to realestate.docusign.com. And you can go ahead and click on one of your rooms, as we'll be sticking in Docusign for a little bit now. All right, so in the Documents tab of your Docusign room, let's go ahead and click Add on the top right. And note that you can access your forms in a couple different ways, okay? And we're going to talk about that because it is different for each agent, depending on what state you're in and so forth. So let's go ahead and select the second option, the Docusign Forms, as that will give you access to your interactive board forms. And that sounds like a fancy word, but all it means is that'll give you access to fillable forms. Those forms that you can open and just start typing in, those are called interactive forms. So we'll click on Add on the top right, and let's see if you already have your forms in there. So we'll click on the Docusign Forms option. And it may take you directly to this pop-up, which is great. If you are instead seeing a different pop-up that says something like NERDS ID required to validate, we're going to go there next. So for right now, you can click the skip button on the very bottom right. I think it's like a blue link that says skip this step for right now. And I'll show you how to get back there, because it may be that your NERDS ID is required to link up your forms. And I'll tell you how you can tell. All right, so in theory, you guys should all be looking at what I am looking at here. So first thing is, let's see if your forms are automatically in Docusign. Okay, some forms are automatically added, like North Carolina forms are automatically in Docusign, for example. So on the left-hand side, let's just go ahead and check to see if we have groups and libraries added. If not, I'm going to show you how to go ahead and add your NERDS ID. So if you do have your forms in here, feel free to stay here. You can, click around on the group names on the left-hand side. These group names are created by your office staff, so they'll look different than mine. It'll take some time to, get used to the navigation on where to locate your forms. But in general, you'll have the groups of your forms on the top. And again, these are your office staff grouping your forms to make it easier for you to find. And then on the bottom, we have your library. So these are my MLS and my board forms, or my association forms. All right, so if you are not seeing forms in your account, let me tell you what to do about it. So if you were seeing forms, you can continue playing where you were. However, if you did not see forms in your account, if you could click on your headshot or initials on the top right in a circle, and click on preferences from that dropdown. And then integrations on the left-hand side. And I'll walk you through those steps again. Okay, so this is if your forms were not automatically in Docusign, what you want to do is click on either your initials or headshot in a circle on the right, preferences, and then integrations on the left in blue. Okay, I'm going to start talking about the Nerds ID section here. Okay, so if you scroll down slightly, you will see the option to link your Nerds ID and link that with your association. Now, not every association has this available. So depending on your real estate board, they offer you your forms in different ways. So it's up to the real estate board. A lot of them, though, offer their forms to be available just by linking your Nerds ID. And I'll show you guys this. So I went through, or our team went through and located all the associations on that list because they are not in a, they're not alphabetized. But we went through and determined, for the most part, how each agent in each state gets access to your forms if it is through Nerds. So if you want to pull up these notes again, and I'll share these out again, but I'm going to show you how you can look to see if your Nerds ID is required. So I sent the notes out again if you don't already have these open. If you could scroll to the very bottom, there's a section that says Nerds availability for form access by board. It's like the third to bottom option. If you can click on that link, this will tell you the answer if your Nerds ID is required or if it's available to be linked to access your forms. So just to kind of overview, as you can see, it's different for each state and board. So we're still working on getting some of the notes. So if it is, if there is a blank and you're not sure, so if it says like N and you're not sure how then to get your forms, shoot us an email or ask your office staff. Your office staff would be best to direct you. We have some additional notes. So if it is saying an N, let us know, California agents. I'll go over yours in a minute here. But for everyone else, please go ahead and scroll and see if you can find your state. And you'll see a lot of boards will be highlighted in green, meaning you just need to pick this board and it will link all your forms no matter which board you are a part of. Okay, so if you are on this list with a Y, all we need to do is come over here to our Nerds ID, go ahead and enter that in. If you're not sure what your Nerds ID is, you can always look it up. Make sure your last name matches how NAR has your name, and then you can select the association to validate against. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, getting over a cold. All right, so that will be required for a bunch of states, as you can see. California agents, however, you are not linking your forms via Nerds. CAR.org instead provides your board forms through Zip Forms. So you will get a Zip Forms account with your CAR.org login that you can link up right here. And I'll touch on Zip Forms, how it links to Docusign moving forward. If you have any trouble with that, feel free to shoot us an email, support@scottleroymarketing.com. We can help you with either of those. Okay. So now hopefully that should give you the answer of how to get your forms in your Docusign account. Again, that does vary depending on state. So if you have any questions, please shoot us an email. We're more than happy to check our notes and check in with your office staff to help you get to the bottom of that. So for now, let's go back to our Docusign room that we were practicing in. You can do that from the dashboard or from your rooms tab on the top. Okay, I'm simply going to click on the room to open that back up. All right. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you guys how you can create templates from those forms that you have in Docusign. So in the Documents tab, in the Documents tab of our Docusign room, right now you should have access. If you just put in your Nerds ID, feel free to test it out. Click on Add, and you'll click on the Docusign Forms option again, and you should then have access to your forms, which you can then simply click on the check boxes to pull those in. So if you'd like to go ahead and practice with any of these, feel free to click the checkbox to pull that in. Okay, so the idea behind templates are, and this is a newer feature, I would say in the last 2-3 months here, my days are running together, so who knows, but it is a newer feature in Docusign, very exciting, that you can now create templates of your interactive board forms so that every time that you start a new transaction, you can bring in that templated version. So what I mean is, so for example, if I open a listing agreement that I brought in, it will have some information autofilling on the form, and we'll talk more about how information autofills into Docusign. However, in order to create a template of this, right, a lot of the information, let's say on a listing agreement, might be the same every time. Like you might write NA, in the same fields over and over. You might be writing your brokerage information over and over. Some of the information on your field or on your forms apply for the most part to most transactions, right? So I'm going to show you how you can create a template to pre-fill in that data that you really are writing in every time you pull in the form, which will save you a lot of time. Of course, any of that data can be updated for the transaction specifically, but I'll show you how you can go ahead and put in the default data that's typically used. All right, so again, newer feature. If you can follow me along, I'm going to click on the My Docs option on the very top Docusign toolbar. So My Docs on the very top, and then Form Templates. This is a newer option here. Form Templates. Yours is blank. That's normal if you haven't done this quite yet. But we can click Create Form Template on the very top right. To go ahead and pull in the form that we're wanting to create a template from. So in the very top drop down, you can select if you want to view your library, like your MLS or board forms, or sort those by group. So depending on what you select in the first drop down, will change the second drop down, just a heads up. And again, this just comes with starting to learn the navigation of where your forms are. But you can go ahead and select whichever form you'd like to create a template from and click Use. All right, so in this part, we are putting in all the information that would generally be on a listing agreement, for example, or whatever form that you pulled up. Now, keep in mind that just because you're selecting, let's say I typically check this box when I'm creating a listing agreement. Just because I'm checking that now, because it's mostly what I put on listing agreements, if I pull in this listing agreement for a future transaction that instead requires, this field to be checked, it will allow me to change that. So at this point, we're just wanting to go through and type in the data that is generally on every single one of these forms. So if you write an A in a specific form field, go ahead and put that in. Okay, keep in mind, and again, I'll go over that your client's information will autofill, your brokerage information autofills as well. Okay, and a lot of the property information will autofill, but I'll go over what autofills and how that works in a little bit. All right, so once you've gone through, and I'll have to use your imagination here a little bit, right? Let's say we went through and we went in and put in sorry, all the information that typically goes on this form. I can then edit that on the top left. So I can click the pencil icon. Sorry, I can edit the name on the top left, which really comes in handy because you can actually save multiple versions of this template. So for example, if you wanted to create like a listing agreement for cash deals and then a listing agreement template for finance deals, you could create 2 versions of that template and you'll be given the choice to add that in, or pick which one to add in rather. So let's say, you know, if this was a listing agreement for cash deals, I could go ahead and put that in. And then make sure you click the little check mark. I always forget to, on the right-hand side. And then you can click Save and Close. Sanjeev, that's a great question. So Sanjeev's question is, what happens if the form you have updated forms have been updated by the board in the given case you've created a template? So the question is, right, typically your board forms will update, like your board will update the forms every year. From what I have seen, these templates would have to be recreated if they do launch new forms. So, you know, kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Typically, this might just be for North Carolina, but our forms launch on the same month every year. Our broker reminds us. So kind of keep a mental note that you need to go adjust your form templates in that case if your board does update the forms. I'll double check that, Sanjeev. That was the answer for .loop. I'll double check to see if the Docusign board forms has a cooler workaround. So feel free to shoot me an email and I will research that further for you. support@scottloraymarketing.com. Yeah, absolutely, great question. All right, so let's go ahead and click Save and Close on the top. And I'm going to show you how to now apply the templates to your Docusign room. So as you can see, creating the form template is pretty easy, right? I mean, a little cumbersome, right, if you want to do that for a couple different forms. But watch how this can make my life way easier now that I go back to my Docusign room. Say I'm starting a transaction. I'll go back to my Docusign room. Okay, and there's a couple different ways that you can apply the template. You can apply the template if the form is already in your Docusign room. So if the form is already in your Docusign room, you can apply that template we just created by right-clicking on that form. And as long as there is a form template available for this specific form, it'll give you the Apply Form Template option. So it'll give me the different options here, you know, if that's for my cash or my finance deals. So if you have multiple templates created for that specific form, it will give you the options. You can click Apply, and it will add all that information that you had on the templated form right to the form in your Docusign room. So pretty quick and painless. I really like this feature. Let me show you though how you can add the template, you know, right off the gate. So it does now give you an option. This is a newer feature, last, you know, month or two. And you can just watch on my screen if you would like, but please note that you can add the templates when you initially add your forms. So if you click on Add on the top right, and that Docusign Forms option, again, that means your interactive forms, ones we can just start typing in. If you pull up a form that, here, this is one, that you have a template for. So see, when I check this form here, I have templates for this form. So I can go ahead and select that I want, you know, this specific template to pull in right away when I click Add Selected. So I would go ahead and apply all the information that I have on the form template right onto the form. All right, but just notice it won't give you that option, right, if you do not have a form template created for that form yet. So it is specific to the form that you'll see a drop down to, you know, select the template. I really like this feature. Makes your Docusign experience a lot more efficient and effective. So try that out. If you have any questions, support@scottloraymarketing.com. You can put attention my name, which is Leah. I'm more than happy to help. And I'll put my contact information in the chat as well. All right, so that is how we go about creating templates in Docusign. So now what I want to talk a little bit about, slightly switching gears, and I talked to you about, right, your information autofilling. So let's talk a little bit more about how information autofills from command into Docusign and to all of your forms. Okay, so for example, and again, you can just watch on my screen for this explanation, totally up to you. But if I open a form in my Docusign room, you'll see that some of the information autofills automatically. So I just want to explain how that works so that you guys can feel comfortable and in control of your data. So you'll notice at the top here, see my clients automatically autofilled. I know, probably looks like I edited this before, but the clients will automatically pull in from command, right? Because I stressed very much that we need to start our transaction in command, right? Creating the opportunity in command. So when we start our transaction in Docusign, it automatically pulls over the client's information. It automatically pulls over your brokerage information, your contact information as the agent, pulls from the white pages. And it will also pull over the property information if you have that in your command opportunity. Right? So let's talk about how that all works together. Okay, so first of all, the details section of your Docusign room, okay, it's really good for you to know that this exists, this tab, and to feel comfortable editing it. If for any reason you see something displaying incorrectly on your forms, like the client's name or the address and so forth, you can come in here into the details tab to edit this directly. So any information from this details tab in Docusign will autofill onto your forms in your documents tab of your room. Now, please note this works back and forth. So if you edit, for example, a field on an interactive form, right, a fillable form, just gonna pull that up so I can show you real quick. Right, for example, let's say that my client's information or the property information, right, that is autofilling from the details tab. And you can see it, like if I hover my mouse over one of those fields, you'll see where that's mapped to. So this is telling me that this field is mapped to seller 2's name from the Docusign details. So this works back and forth that if you update, let's say the address, let's say this is not correct, you update the address here and click Save and Close. That will update the address in the details of the Docusign room, so it works back and forth, and then also on all of your forms in your Docusign room. So this autofill feature does work back and forth. Again, if you update something on the form itself and click Save and Close, like the address, okay. Now when you go to the details section of your Docusign room, it will have updated the address there accordingly, as you can see. And then now we'll update that for all future forms you bring into your Docusign room. Okay. So the autofill feature is very useful, but really important that you know how that works. Okay. I am going to pop over to command. And again, I would just watch on my screen. I just want to explain because there is one button that applies in command to this whole scenario. So this is my command opportunity. I just want to explain what the sync transaction button does. You might have wondered, you might have seen that, right? Clicking sync transaction would pull anything in the opportunities tab of the details tab of the opportunity. It would sync anything here over to your Docusign room. So if you click sync transaction, so let's say that your client changed their name. Let's say they were going by Tony Stark, but now that needs to be Anthony Stark, or they changed their email address, right? Typically, you'll want to change that in your command database. And then if you click sync transaction, it will sync your client's information, your updated client's information to your Docusign room. So let me show you that real quick to make sense of it. So let's just say this client's name is wrong or email, okay? What I would do in that situation is I would simply click on their name from here and click to go to contacts. You can go to their contact record directly. Okay, and I can click the pencil icon. I know this is a little fast, guys. I just want to give you an idea of how this works, okay? So you can try this after. But I can click on the pencil icon and let's say he wants to sign with his middle name, which Albus Dumbledore has like 12 middle names, but lots of them. Or let's say you want to go ahead and change, his email address. I entered it incorrectly at first, or they want to use a different email address, okay? Whatever the case may be, in Docusign, by the way. I can go ahead and edit that information and click Save. So now let's talk about getting these changes over to my Docusign room so it autofills correctly onto all my forms. So now I'm going to go back to the opportunity, okay? Of course, there's a couple different ways to get to your opportunity. I personally really like to access my opportunities from the contact record. So I can simply click on the opportunities tab and click on their name, or I'm sorry, the opportunity name. All right, so from here, I do see the updated information displaying, but I need that to populate into Docusign. Okay, so on the Documents tab, that's where we have that Sync Transaction button. So if you want to jot down a note on this, clicking Sync Transaction would push any updates like your client's name, client's email address. If you put in the listing data into the details, it would sync that all to the Docusign Details tab to autofill on all your forms. Okay, so I'm going to click Sync Transaction. Click Update. And again, that will sync any updates that you have in the opportunity over to the Docusign room. So let's see. Let's put my words to the test here. So over to the Docusign room, where I now have Albus Wilfred Dumbledore instead, right? I now have his middle name, and I now have the updated email address as well, right? So this will only work one way, just a heads up. It's kind of important to know. So the sync will only work from command to Docusign. So this one specifically. The sync transaction button will only work from command to Docusign, like autofilling the details from your opportunity to Docusign. It does not go both ways. So if you click Sync Transactions, that is not syncing the Docusign details to the command opportunity, only the other way around. So the command opportunity details to the Docusign room. Oh, yeah, another great question, Sanjeev. Exactly. You read my mind. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions on the sync transaction feature. I know it's kind of a basic feature, but really important to have an understanding of so that you feel like you're under control of the data that's autofilling onto your forms in Docusign. That is. Okay, so let me know if you have questions. All right, next thing we're going to do is I am going to show you guys how we can add and edit some PDFs in our Docusign room, how you can alert your transaction coordinator or your admin when forms are signed, and how to access and create custom fields in Docusign. So we're going to go over a few things here. So to do that, let's go ahead. If you'd like to follow along, this might be a good place for you guys to follow along. I'm going to go to the Documents tab of my Docusign room. And I'm going to walk you through adding and editing a PDF in Docusign. Now let's talk about why we would need to do this. Let's say there's a real estate agent on the other side of the transaction who doesn't use Docusign, or for whatever reason sends you an email of the form signed by their clients as a PDF. Right? So you have the form on your computer saved as a PDF. It is signed by your clients. Okay, I'm sorry. It is signed by the other agent's clients, and we now need to get that PDF signed by your clients to fully execute the form. Okay, so let me show you how you can add, edit, and get e-signatures for PDFs. You can add PDFs either directly to your Documents tab of your room or in the envelope. Okay, so I'll kind of show you both. In the Documents tab of your Docusign room, we'll come back up to Add, and this time let's select Computer. Okay, so keep in mind, this is if you have that PDF saved to your computer. Maybe it's signed by the other agent's clients. So I'll go ahead and click Add from Computer. And if you have a PDF on your computer, feel free to scroll and find that and just double click on it to pull it in. It doesn't hurt to have a PDF, even if it's not really a real estate form. It really helps to be able to practice on PDFs just to get the hang of it. All right, and while we're in here, please just go ahead and note the difference in the icons because that will come into play when I talk about signed forms after this. So notice that the PDF icon is that orange icon, which looks different from the Docusign Interactive Forms icon. So this blue icon means that all these forms are automatically fillable if I click on them. And just to draw this full circle for you guys, right? This is the same icon that's next to Docusign Forms. So those will always be your fillable or your interactive forms versus the nature of a PDF. If I click on that, the nature is it's not editable, right? I can't just click to start filling in the form. However, I'm going to show you how you can add fields so you can fill it in and even send for signatures. Okay, but off default, PDFs are not editable. All right, so how we do make edits to those is actually pulling the envelope or pulling the PDF into an envelope. Now, if an envelope is a newer term for you, okay, probably I don't blame you if you're new to Docusign. I had never heard that term either. Okay, an envelope, you want to channel snail mail here, and it makes a lot of sense. You will always grab an envelope anytime that you send out one form or a group of forms in Docusign. So again, channeling snail mail here. I need to send out a form. So what's the first thing I do? I would grab an envelope. Okay, so I'll go to the envelopes tab of my Docusign room and click on New on the top right. So again, I clicked on the envelopes tab of my Docusign room and click New. So I'm grabbing the envelope. Okay, step 2 for snail mail is I now need to grab the form that my envelope goes in. So I have a couple different ways I can do that. I can select from the room docs. If you did add the PDF to your Docusign room like I did, I can select that right from here and click Add Selected. I can also upload a PDF directly here. So if you are, in an envelope and you just want to go ahead and upload a PDF right here, you absolutely can. So you can click on More and click Upload, and they'll search your computer for the PDF. So really either way. Okay, and step 3 in snail mail land is I would add recipients to my envelope. So, and add recipients, go ahead and click that button. And click the top option. Okay, so room participants is what we want to go ahead and select. This dropdown will look slightly different depending on what kind of form that you have. Best advice I can give you is always select the top option. So anytime you select add recipients, select that top option. So in this case, room participants. And we are now telling Docusign who needs to sign what field. All right, so I'll go ahead and add my clients here. And again, my clients are automatically displaying because I created my opportunity in command, right? And so when I click start a transaction, it pulls my client's information over automatically. That's why it's so beneficial to create your transaction starting in command to then create your Docusign room. So click add selected. I can see those added in. I can add a message if I would like to, but that's not required. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on next on the top. Oh, sorry, there's one feature I want to show you guys real quick. So let's talk about, before we click next, how we can notify our transaction coordinator, or let's say mortgage provider or admin. You can notify them once a form has been signed. You just need to add them to the envelope. So let's say you want your transaction coordinator to be notified once both parties have signed this. This is what you'll want to do. And this might be a noteworthy moment if this is a feature you plan to use. So we'll click on add recipients, but this time we're going to click on email address. Okay, so since our transaction coordinator, mortgage provider, whatever the case may be, is not already in my Docusign room, I'll click by email address in this case. And I could go ahead and put in, let's say, my transaction coordinator's name and email. Okay, but here's the catch. You need to change where it says needs to sign as just receives a copy. Okay, so there's 2 things we'll need to do here. One is changing needs to sign to receives a copy. And just in case you're wondering the difference between needs to view versus receives a copy, needs to view will require them to view it in order for you to get the signed form back. And I'll expand on that in a little bit, but I would recommend clicking receives a copy. That way they just receive a copy of the signed form, okay? But what we wanna do is change the number 1. So this is a feature Dotloop did not have that I do really like. You'll see all the ones to the left of the client's names. Well, that's telling you, okay, all these people will receive the form at the same time. If they all have a 1, they will all receive the form at the same exact time when I send that out. However, if I change, let's say, my transaction coordinator to a 2, they will receive a copy of that after the clients marked as a 1 have done their action, which is needs to sign. So I really like this feature that you can control, the order that sends out, and that you can notify your, admin, transaction coordinator, mortgage provider. That way they can receive a copy of the fully executed contract, for example. All right, so once we have that added in, we'll go ahead and click on next on the top right. right, let's go over how to add fields to the PDF that we have added. So again, as I mentioned, the nature of a PDF means it's not editable, right? I can't just click to start editing it. However, the fields on the left-hand side do allow me to edit the fields. So if I need to add a text box, for example, or a checkbox and so forth, I can do that from the left-hand side. Now, especially with PDFs, you'll need to add signature fields. So if you're working with a Docusign interactive form, right? Remember, that means it's fillable just by opening it. You can just start typing it in. The initial fields will automatically display once you're in the envelope, which is now, right? I added the recipients. If it was an interactive form, a fillable form, the initial fields will automatically display. You will not need to set this up. However, if it is a PDF, use your imagination. Let's say the buyers have signed this, right? And again, the client on the other side, the buyer's agent sent you the contract in your email. So you have that as a PDF, saved it to your computer and did what we did. Okay, now you need to go ahead and add the initial boxes for your client to sign, right? So you will need to add initial and signature boxes if you are editing a PDF. So how you do that, on the left-hand side, notice that all these fields are a specific color, and that actually corresponds to the color of the client's dot on the drop-down on the top left. So if I click on the drop-down on the top left, I can see, okay, which client is assigned yellow and which one is assigned blue, and so on. If I go ahead and select the other client, I can see all these fields turn that specific color. So if I need to lay an initial box for my client to fill in, I will want to go ahead and click on initial and click to drop that. And then I could go ahead and add that for my other client. Initial. So you can see the two different colors. I saw a tip. I want to see if this works. You can see the two different colors, which corresponds to the different colors here, right? Meaning both clients have signed, can sign. So now you need to go through and essentially add those initial boxes on the bottom of, you know, every page they need to sign. I think I saw a tip where you can actually hold your mouse. I'm going to try it out to see if this works. You can hold your mouse to select both. I'm going to copy them. I did Command copy on my Mac. See if I can. Wow, that was cool. Okay. So what I just did to save you guys some time. So as you can see, in the North Carolina offer, there's 13 pages that I need to add these initial boxes to, give or take. So if that is the case, like you need to go through and add the same field on every page, you can actually, so if I click and hold my mouse, it'll start to draw this dotted line. And then you'll notice it selects both of them. Now I did, if you do Control C on your keyboard, this probably works too. You can probably right click and do copy. Or if you're more comfortable with your keyboard, I like keyboard shortcuts. So Control C or Command C if you're using a Mac, we can copy it and then scroll down to where it should go. And then you can, let's see, right click to paste. Yeah, super cool. Yeah. I get a little too excited about the Docusign features, I think. But that's a great, really great time saver, honestly, for you guys. And then as far as initial fields go, it's pretty much the same exact concept here. I just want to show you that. Right? I'm glad you guys are excited about the copy and paste feature too. That's awesome. And Sanjeev, if you are not where I am, make sure that you pull the form into your envelope and add the recipients and click next. All right, so initial box, or I'm sorry, signature fields, slightly different. I just want to show you guys that you need to add the date field as well. So if you are adding signature fields, so this is just for PDFs, right? Because interactive forms, the fillable forms, signature fields will automatically display. But for these sign options, so for the signature specifically, you also need to add the date signed field. It will display automatically. So when your client goes to sign it, it will automatically display the date, but you need to add the date signed field as the agent. And again, this is only for PDFs because this will happen automatically on interactive forms. So, you know, jot this down as a note for next time you work on a PDF. But anytime you're adding signatures, so again, I'm adding the signature box, add the date signed, and that will fill in appropriately. Now there is a brand new Docusign feature that I think just came out in the past like 2 weeks. That's when I noticed it, at least. It might have been in labs. But on the left-hand side, okay, so again, I've been talking about how all of these fields on the left-hand side are assigned to your client. So if depending on which client I select, even if I click a text box here, let's say I have a text box play here. If it is blue, or if it is a solid color, that means it will mandate your client to fill that out. Okay, so if you lay a text field and it is solid blue or solid yellow, it will require your client to fill that field out, which is really great if it's a field you want them to fill out, like for example, I don't know, personal property that's conveying, or they need to answer something about the HVAC or whatever the case may be. If it's a field they need to fill out, perfect. This is what you want to do. However, if it is a field that you want to add as the agent, let's say I need to go ahead and add this information right here on the PDF. Okay. Agent fields are now displaying under, so on this gray toolbar on the far left, pre-fill tools. I don't know if my account just didn't have them until 2 weeks ago, but these are brand new as of about 2 weeks, a month or so. These are agent fields. So meaning if I click a text box right here and lay that, see how it's gray? That means that you can fill it out as the agent and all your clients can see it on the envelope. Okay. So again, the difference is if you lay a text box specific to your client, actually only they can see it and only they can fill it in. If you add one of these gray options, so under pre-fill tools, which is where you have a strike through as well, by the way, guys, like if you need to, strike through the settlement date or whatever the case may be, you can strike through that and then add that text box so that you can type it in yourself. Okay, so that's a really cool feature that they just added in. That'll come in handy as you edit PDFs. For now, I'm just going to click on send on the top right. Gotcha. Great point, Rod. So it probably depends on where you are. In North Carolina, we're able to add strike throughs, but definitely check with your broker. So thank you, Rod, for bringing this up. Rod is letting us know that in California, you are not able to add or change contracts signed by the first party or strike through. Any changes needs to be done with an addendum instead. So thank you very much, Rod. That's very helpful to know. Of course, always check with your broker. So even if the field, is there to strike through, well, in general, even in North Carolina, just a heads up, if you do strike through any data that was on there on a fully executed form, you would then need to add initial boxes to have that change signed. Again, these are more things that your broker will advise you through. So check with them, but you do have the strike through feature if that's allowed. Yeah, I know the agent field option is pretty new. I've been very excited about it because that was quite the adjustment to try to change for the standard fields. So I'm glad you're liking that too, Snah. All right, guys, so last couple things. If you can stick around a little later, I'll probably go till 2:15. If you cannot, this class is being recorded. But I do want to show you a couple more things, like how to, what signed forms look like in Docusign, how to make edits to signed forms, okay, if that's allowed in your area. And I'll wrap it up with showing you how to do host in-person signing in Docusign as well, which is a feature on the e-signature side. So if you can stick around for 15 minutes, please do. Rod, good question. If you don't mind emailing that question about the client name to support@scottleroymarketing.com, they can advise for mailing labels a little more specifically. Because of course for DocuSign, they'll typically want to be their legal name. So I know that much, but they'll be able to answer your question more fully. Support@scottleroymarketing.com. All right, guys, so I'm going to click send right here on the top right. If you are doing this with me, and you don't want to click send right now, you can always save and close or discard on the top. But I'll click on send so you guys can see what it looks like when a form goes through. Let's see. Oh, yeah, this is a newer field, by the way, or a newer error. If that pops up, it's telling me because I didn't add anything to that agent field. Where is that? There we go. See. All right, so if you get that error that I just got, that is because I didn't add anything to the agent field, so you will have to add something for that to go through. Okay, So you can watch on my screen now. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to view sign forms in Docusign, how you can sign it as the agent, and working with those in general. So sign forms are a little different in Docusign than they were in Dotloop. First of all, if this is a form that you need to sign as the agent, so let's say I just sent out a form like a listing agreement and I need to sign that as well as my clients, it will send you an email. It will send you an email to sign it as the agent. However, you can just sign that straight from the envelopes tab as well. So if you go to the envelopes tab, which it took me to automatically, I can see that this one needs my signature. So in that case, I'll go ahead and click on it and I could click to sign now. Okay, so if it's a form I need to sign, I can do that right from the envelope. It'll give me the option to sign. Other things you can do from here, just while we're here, if you need to make any corrections to the envelope, you can do that right from here. One of my favorite tools in the More tab, I really like the Resend feature, and this actually comes into play quite well with the sign forms. So we're going to talk about this, but please note that your form will not come back signed to your Docusign room until all parties have signed. Okay, so if you, let's say you'll get an email when each party signs. So let's say you get an email that Tony Stark signed, client 1. And I go to my Docusign room and look for that signed form, I will not see it. Okay, I will not see the form in my Docusign room signed until all parties have completed their action. Now, typically when you're emailed to let you know, that your client has signed, just a heads up, the form is typically attached to that email showing the signature from that one client. However, you will not see that signed form in your Docusign room until all parties have signed. So let's say, we have 2 people who've signed, and we just have one straggler, right? Or let's say he's saying, oh, I didn't even get it. I don't know where that is. You can resend it to just the person who has not signed so that it will go ahead and, send over the fully signed form. So to do that, this might be a noteworthy moment. So in the envelope, I'll show you how I got here again. But you'll click on More and then Resend. And again, it will not send it to the people who have already signed. It will only send it to the people who still, are struggling over there and need to sign, so that you can go ahead and expedite the form coming over. All right, so let's go ahead and click the X. We can X out of here. So I can show you what signed forms look like in Docusign. Okay, so I'm going to navigate on over to another room that I have signed forms. So you can just watch on my screen for this part. All right. So again, I just popped over to a different Docusign room so I can show you guys what the signed forms look like. Okay, so when this form comes back signed, let's pay attention to these icons again, right? I mentioned that the blue icon means it's an interactive form, one you can just start typing in, right? We see the PDF icon, which means you can't just start typing in it, essentially. And then we have a third icon now of the signed, okay, the signed icon. So that'll show up once the form has come back fully signed by all parties. Now, please note that when the form comes back signed, it will come back as a totally separate copy of the form. Okay, so this right here was my original form. This was the original exclusive right to sell, my listing agreement. This was the one I could just start typing in, and I sent that to my clients to sign. Then once they signed, both parties, the form comes back as a totally separate copy of the form, okay, with that green signed icon, and it will be a PDF, okay? So when forms come back signed, here's a copy of the signed form. This is what it looks like, okay? And even though when I sent it off, right, it was an interactive form, it was one I could just start typing in, when it comes back signed, it converts it to a PDF as a totally separate copy to preserve the signatures, okay? So if you had used Dotloop in the past, excuse me, and seen where, it tells you if you make any changes, it'll erase all the signatures. That will not happen in Docusign, okay? So if you do need to make edits to a signed document in Docusign, again, check with your broker on any, what compliance in your area, but I'm just gonna show you how you can make edits, which you guys will feel pretty comfortable now because we did that for the PDF, okay? Same concept as editing a PDF. We can pull this signed form into our envelope to make edits to it, okay? And again, of course, you would need to initial any changes, right? You need your clients to initial any changes if it's a fully signed form, et cetera, et cetera. Please check in with your broker and so forth on compliance. But in order to edit a signed form, you need to make changes to a signed form and send those edits for signatures or initials. You can just create a new envelope, pull that signed form in, and lay those fields we saw on the left-hand side. And I know that was a little hypothetical since I didn't show you it. So let me show you where that is on the notes. I'll send this out again towards the end of class. But we do have edit signed documents. It's just a 10-minute tip video. So if you want to watch that after class, you can watch that and I'll show you in real time. Okay, I think the last thing I want to show you guys, sorry, I know I'm running out of time. I would love to show you guys host in person signing because that's such a highly requested feature in Docusign. It is a couple steps in my opinion. So if you would like to see how you can do host in person signing, which means, let's say I prepare the form when I am sitting at my desk and then I go on my appointment, let's say on my listing appointment, I can pull my forms up on my computer at the listing appointment and just pass my computer to them to electronically sign it sitting right next to me. So I don't have to email the forms to them. So if you would like to see that feature, I do have the tip video on the notes as well if you guys need to run. This should probably take me about 5 minutes here to show you. So if you would like to learn this feature, feel free to stick around. Okay. So again, I'm going to show you how to set up host in person signing. And I would say this is a little bit of a workaround. The host in person signing is not available on the room side of Docusign. This will be available on the e-signature side of Docusign. Okay, so this is kind of a couple steps, right? But they're pretty straightforward steps once you get the hang of it. Right? I really like it and do use this. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to create a new envelope, much like we've been doing, right? We create a new envelope first. So join me in the envelopes tab if you would like to follow along, or you can just watch. Okay, we're gonna click on new on the top right. And we're gonna run through pretty much the same steps here. So the first step is we are adding our forms that they need to sign in person, right? So we're setting this up at our desk in our office before we go and meet with our clients. All right, so at this point, I am going to go ahead and select, all right, which forms am I going to need them to sign on the initial appointment? And click Add Selected. Just a heads up, you can alter the order of these forms as well. So, you know, if you add the forms and you want those to be in a specific order, you can absolutely reorder those. Right, and on the bottom here, we'll have the add recipients, as you guys have been seeing, right? And we're going to go ahead and add that in. As I mentioned, right, you might have some different options depending on what kind of forms that you pull in. But in general, you'll always want to select the top option. I hope that helps you remember. It helps me remember. So pre-tagged roles. I can go ahead and select my clients from here. So again, I am setting up who are my clients that I'm about to go meet with that I need them to sign. So I'll go ahead and tell Docusign, okay, this is seller 1, this is seller 2, click add selected. Okay, so everything's been pretty straightforward, pretty the same so far, but here's where things get slightly different. So this is a big thing you want to do if you are taking notes on this. Put a star around if you are doing host in person signing, you always want to add an email subject so you can tell the difference between them. And I'll show you why this is so important. But let's say, so for the email subject, I'll go ahead and put like in-person signing, Tony Stark and Pepper Potts. Okay. So really it's the email subject that's key here, and you'll see why. So now that's all really the work that we have to do before the appointment, right? We got all the forms together that they need to sign. So now we can just click Save and Close on the top. So we're saving this as a draft. So Save and Close. Sorry, not under Actions, Save and Close. And I can see it saves that envelope as a draft. Okay, so that's what I've done so far. I've created the envelope, added the forms, and saved that as a draft. So now I'm driving to my listing appointment. I get there, I get my computer out, we start talking about everything. Okay, now it's time to sign the forms. So now I would pull up my Docusign account. And this is where things kind of get to be a workaround, because this feature is only available in the e-signature side of Docusign. So we don't go over there too often. Honestly, there's not many other things you'll switch over to e-signature for. I'm hoping that KWRI will add this feature on the room side as well. But in the meantime, we'll click on our headshot or initials on the top right and click switch to e-signature. Okay, so once we click on switch to e-signature, so again, I did that from my headshot on the very top right, or your initials, switch to e-signature. I might suggest jotting down these notes. Select manage on the top. So manage. And then our drafts on the left-hand side. Again, it makes sense, right? We saved that envelope as a draft. So we have to click on our drafts on the left-hand side. And there it is. And I can easily tell which one it is because I did rename that subject line. So that's why I really like to rename the subject to know which one it is. And then we just click continue. We're on the home stretch here, guys. It's the last part. So we click continue. So in this part, right, we're sitting next to our clients. We're on our computer. We're pulling up this draft, clicking continue. All right, and it'll show us the envelope. Okay, and there's just one change we need to make, or slight change here. Right, we have them set up as needs to sign, but you can actually change that now to in-person signer. So change needs to sign to in-person signer. You will need to add your host name. Okay, that's a little confusing in my opinion. That's just saying like whose computer are you signing from? I'll always just be your name. You're the host. So we'll add our name here, our name and email address as the host. It will require that for in-person signing. Just saying whose computer are you signing from. And now this is it. Okay, so we did it. So now we can click on next on the top right, and it's time to pass it to our clients. Okay, it will allow us to make any changes if needed. So we can review the forms and make any edits on the left-hand side if needed. But in theory, I would recommend doing that before your appointment. We can click on send on the top right. And it will prompt your clients to sign that. Okay, so I can see the initial fields automatically added. So if I click on send on the top right, it will ask me if I want my clients to sign now. So yes, I want my clients to sign this now. It'll tell me basically to pass the device over to my client so that they can start signing. So once they click on start, it will take them through the form so they can go ahead and sign the form right in front of you. And I really like this because it allows me to explain the form sitting right next to them, answer any questions that they may have, and they can sign it right from there without, hey, this was a great appointment. I'll send you the listing agreement after our appointment. No, I want this listing agreement signed right now while I'm sitting in front of you. And so I can help you, right? That client, that is. So this is your client signing at this point. So they're clicking agree, click continue, and it will take them through to sign. This is what that looks like for your clients. Okay, the first time that they go to sign a form in Docusign, it will give them the option to change their name if they want to add a middle initial or so forth, and then click adopt and sign to continue. Okay, and again, once both parties have signed, the form will come back to your Docusign room fully signed. All right, guys, so that is how you can do host in-person signing, and I 100% agree that that is a good amount of steps for that. I actually have to watch my own video sometimes to remember how I do it. So I have that on here, the host in-person signing. So I'll send out these notes again so that you guys can follow along if you would like to, right from here. And if you guys have any questions, that is what I'm here for. So I'm going to put my contact information in the chat. That is support@scottleroymarketing.com. But you can put attention my name, which is Leah, Leah. And I would be more than happy to look at your account specifically. So I handle all the Docusign and opportunity issues here. So if you are running into a roadblock, chances are I have too, and have a good workaround for it. So shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to look at your account, support@scottleroymarketing.com. I hope this was helpful. This class will be up recorded within 24 hours, but I would say in the next couple of hours here, I'll have that up for you guys. So if you do want to watch the class recorded so you can pause it and follow along, please feel free. I know that helps me learn classes quite as well. All right, guys, let me know if you have questions. I'm here to help, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope this helped, guys.